And welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Sports Frenzy podcast right here on Wood TV. Plus, Phil Pinarski here, joined as always by our News 8 Sports correspondents, Dean Holzwarth and Andy McDonald. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for being here after one of the busier weekends in sports. It happens every single February. You got the Super Bowl. Every 4 years, you also have the Winter Olympics to kind of go along with everything. We've got some NBA basketball to talk about and a lot of big, major baseball news that we'll get to in just a little bit involving the Detroit Tigers. But like I said, biggest game of the year was the Super Bowl. It happened on Sunday. We saw Kenneth Walker, who I, again, went to high school with. Just always got to mention that whenever I say his name.
What?
Yeah.
This is like the... How come I didn't know that?
I said that last week, I thought.
He did. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I remember saying that.
He said it a couple of times.
Yeah, right. I won't stop talking about it. I always say, yeah, no.
Did you graduate with him?
No. He was a freshman when I was a senior. So, again, kind of didn't really cross paths, but...
So, like, well, maybe in the hall you did.
Well, maybe, yeah, actually.
Phil's famous. It's just like
I'm the second most famous person that went to that high school after Sunday night.
I'm freshman in the hall.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. What are you going to do? Win the Super Bowl MVP or something? Yeah, exactly. But yeah, congrats goes out to Kenneth Walker and the Seattle Seahawks. It was really great to see. I mean, the game was honestly kind of boring, but Kenneth Walker was really all of the exciting moments. I mean, even that touchdown that he had kind of brought back because of that penalty, I felt like was one of the more exciting plays in that game. But again, I mean, what did you guys make of the Super Bowl this year?
I mean, I just woke up from it, so it was kind of a snoozer. First 3 quarters, lots of field goals. I watched it with my daughters, and they were like, "Dad, My daughter, oldest daughter was betting me, "Hey, Dad, I think they're going to score a touchdown on this drive." I'm like, "No, I don't think they are." Both defenses played really, really well.
Yeah.
And, what I liked about Seattle was, unlike the Lions, they took the points.
Yeah.
They kicked field goals. They weren't going for it in 4th and 5. And it was very interesting that 3 of the I think it was Houston, Seattle, and maybe New England were the fewest chances on 4th down. And then look where they landed. So, obviously we talk about, Dan Campbell and all the risks that he take. But, I think in big games like that, you need to take the points. And that's exactly what Seattle did. 12-0 through the first 3 quarters. I didn't know if there was going to be a touchdown scored in that game.
Right.
But Kenneth Walker, over 150 yards rushing, didn't score a touchdown, so I didn't hit my parlay. But other than that, congrats to Seattle. I feel like they deserved it. I was happy for Sam Darnold. Yeah. Obviously, he didn't play very well, but he didn't really need to because of that defense against a very inexperienced and young Drake May.
You always find a way to slip a joke in there, Gene. It never gets by anybody. I think that's we pay the big bucks to watch this show because that's why I subscribe. It gets me every time. But I couldn't agree with you more. It definitely wasn't the most entertaining game. I think all the talk on social media has just basically been about the Bad Bunny Bowl and all that going back and forth. I feel like I've seen way more about that than I even have the game itself. So it would have been a better game. I think that would have helped for everybody else to be talking about it a little bit more, but it didn't. But Mike McDonald didn't care. He was going to game manage his way to that Super Bowl no matter what. And that's the way that you probably should do it in those kind of moments. That's kind of why I thought that overall Seattle just has the better roster, on paper, so they should win the game. And from the way it started with both defenses playing that well, I think he knew every time he got points, it was going to go towards them winning the game. So it was definitely the smart way to manage it. And there's so many times in these big games and Super Bowls or NFC, AFC championship games where sometimes coaches kind of outcoach themselves a little bit and try to do too much. I mean, Seattle would be one of the best examples of that. Years ago, being on the 1-yard line against the Patriots and throwing the ball instead of running it with one of the best running backs in football. So it's don't overdo it. Just do what works. And I mean, obviously, Sam Darnold, it's on his mind because the first thing he says when he gets talks about it post game, he's just we could have done a little bit better on offense. He's already thinking about how people are going to be oh, well, you got carried to that Super Bowl. Doesn't matter. You don't go 14-3 in back-to-back seasons and get yourself in that position in the playoffs with that team to win the Super Bowl without being a good quarterback. So he deserves all the credit in the world for being a big part of the reason why that team got there. And it truly was one of the quieter stories, I feel for winning a Super Bowl that I can remember in recent memory. So,
well, is it maybe a little bit too early to stake our claims, make our predictions for next year's Super Bowl? I mean, are you guys willing to go out on a limb here a little bit?
Yeah, go for it, Dean.
Yeah, I know I'm a homer here, right? But I do think that the Lions have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. And I would love a Buffalo-Detroit Super Bowl.
Okay, yeah.
So it's my early prediction.
I don't know which part of that would be more unlikely, honestly. I mean, this was the Bills' year. They couldn't even make it that.
You're right.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell right now. I think everything kind of for me depends on Matthew Stafford. I still really like the team that the Rams have.
Yeah.
And it's always so hard to like tell what's going to happen next year. There's always teams that do kind of come out of nowhere. And I love the Lions schedule, Dean. I'll give you that. I do think that they can make a really good case at it, and I do think they'll make the playoffs and be in that race to get it next year. But I don't know, gosh, so hard. If I had to pick somebody to win it next year, I think I don't know. Again, like I don't know if Patrick Mahomes is going to be healthy.
Right,
if they could have a second run at it.
Yeah.
I probably would just go with the Rams right now on paper, getting back to that same spot. And maybe they don't have to beat Seattle this time, but I do think that Matt Stafford gets another one before he's done if he does come back and play.
Right.
So
yeah, no, like all those picks, honestly.
the level he played at this year, if he comes back, he's going to try to replicate it. And if there's anybody I believe in, Matt Stafford knows how to play the game the right way. So I think he'll have his team in the right spot again with all that talent around him to do it.
Yeah.
So,
well, again, way too early to really tell about anything.
Yeah.
Let's focus on something, a season that's starting a little bit earlier than the NFL season, and that is Major League Baseball. There is a lot of Detroit Tigers news to get to. Let's first start off by talking about, we hinted at it a little bit last week as it was going on, but the arbitration between the Detroit Tigers and star pitcher, reigning two-time Cy Young Award winner Tarik Skubal. Of course, the panel eventually ruled in Skubal's favor, awarding him $32 million instead of the $19 million that the Tigers were trying to give him. We touched on just how this could impact really the whole industry of baseball in general, but let's focus on the Tigers more specifically. How does the situation with the arbitration really impact this team, and more specifically Skubal in Detroit?
I mean, for him getting the $32 million was a major win, I think, because either way, I think he kind of knew the Tigers were probably going to keep him and not trade him.
Right.
They were either going to pay him that much money, or at this point in the offseason, it's so late right now, I don't think they were going to trade him at this point. So he just wanted to win that $32 million, and he did. And I think he knows probably that he did a lot for players going forward in the future that aren't even involved with the Tigers. Like a lot of players that enter this 6th year now, if they're pitching at the level that Skubal's pitching at going into that 6th year, and even I bet there's even going to be talks in like the offseasons about pushing that back again, not having arbitration go as late, not having team control last 6 years, and after your 3rd year, maybe if it's a 4-year plan instead, you can argue that you should be able to make that much money. There's going to be so many things that it's only going to work for the players that he won this over or not. But like again, if you're in the courts and you don't care about baseball and you're making this decision, I mean, what do the Tigers bring to the table? I mean, all the jokes out there about him like hiking the ball between his legs, like they brought out a TV and showed that. Like what are you gonna say to like honestly knock his case? Like he deserves to make that much money. The Tigers probably should have offered him a little bit more in the first place, then maybe they wouldn't have had to do it. But with what we're about to talk about in the future, or in a little bit here for the Tigers case, obviously they don't really care about spending money right now, and I can't believe I'm saying that out loud. But yeah, Dean, what do you think with the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's well deserving of the money, right? And I think a lot of people thought it might go his way, but yeah, they're not going to trade him at this point, especially with the guys that they just added in the past week and last few hours, whatever, last 24 hours.
Right.
So yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about right now in Detroit, and we'll get to that right now.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, let's just jump straight into it. Obviously, the big news that happened really just a few hours ago is the fact that Justin Verlander is returning to Detroit. He will be back with the Tigers on a 1-year, $13 million contract, shaping up to be kind of like a swan song, a little bit of love letter back to Detroit from his time earlier in his career there. I mean, instant reaction to this, because obviously our newsroom was abuzz when the news first broke because he's a fan favorite, obviously, and to see him kind of come back after what he was able to do, especially at the end of last year. I mean, you got to kind of have a little bit of hope, but just instant reactions when you guys first saw that Jeff Passan notification pop up that he was coming back to Detroit. I mean, what were sort of those feelings inside?
I mean, pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I had a feeling that could happen, but to actually see it announced was pretty special. I'm a big Justin Verlander fan. Obviously, as a Detroit Tigers fan, you rooted for him and you saw him do some amazing things in Detroit when he was with them. And not that he's going to replicate that now coming back, but like, I just think it's going to bring a lot of energy to this clubhouse, having a veteran guy in there. And if he can perform the way he did his the second half of the season, with the Giants this past year. I think he can do some good things and win some games and help this team get to the playoffs. So yeah, super excited for Verlander. It was cool to see him and Skubal in a picture today in spring training together. And then obviously we'll talk about Valdez in a little bit. But yeah, to have those three guys now kind of leading that pitching rotation, it brings optimism to the season coming up.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. I haven't really been
so excited.
I haven't been. Well, yeah, I mean, like growing up, this is like I don't know who it would be like from your time when you were a kid growing up, but like when I started to like baseball, it was back in like literally the first year I ever paid attention to the Tigers, 2006. So that's why I'm as crazy as I am about about the sport and that team itself. I've always loved the Tigers, so this has just been. To get this guy to come back here and play for them it's remarkable, man. Especially with the way that it's been. I mean, it's been 10 years now, I feel like, since anybody. We've talked about this a couple of times. Like, how many trade deadlines have went by where maybe these teams in recent years here could have made a move and nobody did, and they didn't really sign anybody big. Justin Verlander, obviously, in that piece. I think Framber Valdez is more that piece, and we'll get into that whole thing in a second, too. But it's just like, with Verlander, they're just adding on to it, and they're making a move that I just felt like they never would actually make. Like, I never felt like this. I know you said like you thought it could happen, and I do think there's real reason for it, because what you said, Dean, is that he did have great numbers towards the end of last year. I mean, his last 7 starts, his ERA was under 2, and his last 15 starts of the year last year was under 3. Overall, he was 3.85 in the year. Like, people look at the 4-11 record. I mean, if you watch baseball, you know the pitching records don't really matter at the end of the day. That's more about the team that's around you. So the numbers he put up were still really good. And if that's your 4-5 in a rotation, a guy that's coming back with all this momentum. I mean, he hadn't posted on social media in 5 years, and he put out a video yesterday about coming back to where it all started. I mean, that's pretty cool in my eyes, because like I feel like Detroit kind of carries that reputation of like forgotten about or pushed aside or not really thought about. When you get somebody who's arguably one of the best pitchers, if not the best pitcher, with all the accolades he has in baseball like history, to come back and care about your city that much, I mean, that says a lot about how much he enjoyed his time here. And seeing all the pictures of him and Skubal next to each other today was just pure chills, man. I mean, that's crazy to see, like the person who's kind of uplifted this team. I don't know if this is true yet, and I was going to see if you guys had seen it yet or not, but MLB on Fox, put a post the other day about Verlander saying something about how like Skubal had a good run, but he's been the ace of the staff before, and he thinks he can be it again. So, and it wasn't MLB on Fox, so I mean, I think it was a real comment. I haven't been able to have the time to go back and look for the interview or whatever yet, but I'm sure he was kind of kidding with that comment in a way. But I think he is that competitive of a guy, and that's what makes this staff so awesome. Like, all of these guys in the staff want to be the best one, and it's just special that Justin Verlander got added to it in a year where maybe they could do something. So.
Right. Well, I think that is kind of the next question, because obviously he means so much just to the fan base in general. I think, they want to see him succeed as much as possible, but, just having him back in a Tigers uniform, having him a part of this team that is on the up and up, I mean, that is already a huge deal. But, I mean, what are sort of the expectations that you guys have for Justin Verlander going into this year? He is 42 years old.
I mean, I think the expectation is to do what he did last year. I don't think he would come in here with any other kind of mindset than to help this team. I mean, to say that he's going to put up like more than 200 innings is kind of crazy to think at his age. But I do think that he could throw 150 plus, and I think that he's the kind of guy that wants to be that horse. I mean, it feels like of the pitchers that could do that, go 8-9 innings like consistently like that. He's like the last of that breed that's dying off, and I feel like he wants to prove that he can do that one more time in the place that he became famous for doing it and throwing harder later in the game and everything else. So I expect him to be a huge part of this team if he can stay healthy. I mean, that's the one thing I think that no matter what with pitching, that's always the thing. I think that was the damper yesterday on the news. Obviously, Reese Olson is going to miss the whole season because he is still injured and dealing with, I believe it was a labrum injury. So, it's just... That's tough news to hear, and I feel that's probably why the Tigers acted on this a little bit more than maybe they would have if he was healthy, because maybe they would have tried to spend the money elsewhere. But at the end of the day, when you have a rotation like this, I feel like Verlander backing you in a 7-game series towards the end of the postseason, where you have the option to throw him for a 5-6 innings, given it everything he has with how much experience he has and how well he knows how to pitch to people. I expect him to be a huge part of this, and the reason they make the playoffs and have a legitimate chance to make it to the World Series. I mean, I think he's a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think the expectations are maybe 10-plus wins, right? He can still strike out dudes, right? He still has a really good, array of pitches, and that he can get guys out, and so I think that's just going to help them. But if you're looking at a Skubal, Valdez, Verlander, potentially top three, in 4-game series or whatever the case may be, that's pretty lethal, right? Like you're going up against 3 high-quality pitchers. And I'm not calling Verlander the Tom Brady of the Major League Baseball, right? But at his age, he's still performing. And so I still think he has a lot to give to Detroit and this chase for, a World Series.
No, seriously, I feel like baseball is such an old sport that, like, people don't really, like, take into account all the accolades and things he's done since he's been in the MLB. Like, he's won, for 2 MVPs. He's got
2 or 3 Cy
Youngs. He's won 2 World Series. Like, his numbers are consistently some of the best in the major leagues. Like, he is maybe the best pitcher of all time. I just don't think he's gotten the credit for whatever reason, maybe because he pitches in today's era. But he's a great person to have in your team, that's for sure.
Definitely. Well, another new member to the Detroit Tigers, you guys have been mentioning him a little bit. Well, let's talk about him a little bit more. Framber Valdez, obviously the big contract, big get for the Tigers. He signed a 3-year, $115 million contract to join the Detroit Tigers. Let's just talk about just the seismic nature of this deal, because now you've got a guy who is as great as Valdez is, and you're pairing him with a Skubal, and then you're also bringing in Justin Verlander. I mean, like, just how much of a big deal is this Valdez signing?
Oh, it's huge, right? Like, I mean, I felt like I'm not going to say they overpaid him, but I mean, you looked at the money, and then you looked at the Skubal money and like what they offered Skubal, and so you're kind of like a little bit leery on that when it first came out. But like, to get a guy of Valdez's talent, is pretty great. He's going to be obviously number 2 behind Skubal, like I said, and he's gonna, he's a guy who can get guys out, strikeouts, and he's been very consistent over his career. And so I think he's going to come to Detroit. He's got obviously a great relationship with manager AJ Hinch from being together in Houston. So I think it's going to be a match made in heaven, and hopefully, like, he can also help this team accomplish their goals.
Yeah, I think the major difference with the Valdez deal, I do think that maybe $38 million a year is a bit much, but that's just kind of the way it goes in today's era of baseball. Like, pitchers are only making more and more money. It seems the difference is that his deal is only 3 years and he has a 2-year opt-out. So it's a shorter term contract, which is, I think, if the Tigers would have got that kind of an option with Skubal, which Boris wasn't going to give him that kind of option, then I think they already would have signed Skubal probably by last year even at this point. So we wouldn't have been talking about any of this. It's more, I think the arbitration rule was more why the Tigers decided to offer him only the $19 million. The thing about all of it is that I don't think that anybody thought they were going to sign somebody like that and pay him that much money, like Framber Valdez, and pay him $38 million a year. And it came out today that Chris Ilitch, I mean, obviously, who knows if he knew or not, but they say that he did not know about, like, Skubal winning that case. Like, he already paid Valdez before knowing the outcome, which to me is just impressive. And I'm notorious for saying that Chris Ilitch won't spend money and wouldn't do it. And I think I have a lot of years to back me up on that. But this is what we like. If you're a Tigers fan, this is what you needed to see. Like, you just needed to see them go out and spend money. And Framber Valdez is like the perfect example of that. I think that going out and signing a guy like that to be the number 2 in your rotation shows that you're trying to take the next step forward. You understood. I mean, last year AJ Hinch got asked the question about who's going to be the number 2 starter in the playoffs. He said, good thing is I don't have to figure that out today. Because he didn't know. I mean, seriously, it was like they didn't, as much as we acted like their pitching was good, it fell off the end of last year and they did need to make an upgrade there. Obviously, they've made 2 huge upgrades there, and Framber Valdez is just the perfect example of what you need to do to win. I think he throws that sinker baller very well in a park like Comerica that still is big, even after all the changes. He keeps the ball on the ground, doesn't give up a lot of home runs already. I think when you bring that to Comerica Park, that's only going to be better. So, like you said, Dean, he played with AJ Hinch, so did Justin Verlander. He obviously had a huge part of why these guys came here, and you have to give Scott Harris a lot of credit for getting the execution done and getting the green light. And it changes. I mean, a show ago, we were just talking about how they barely were going to pay Skubal and they're still cheap and not doing all this stuff. Wow, it's crazy how 1 week can literally, I mean, they make these signings and everybody's like, this is way different. So,
An interesting thing I saw was, so the Lions pitching staff, I think combined is like $100 million.
Yeah, the Tigers, you mean?
Yeah, Tigers pitching staff. Cleveland Indians total roster is $95 million, right?
Wow.
So, and we forget about Casey Mize. Was he not an All-Star?
Yeah, he was an All-Star.
Right, we forget.
Jack Flaherty's a good pitcher
and
too,
Jack
man.
Flaherty can be consistent. You know, he had his ups and downs last year, but if that guy can go out and do what we know he can do and live up to his potential, and if Mize can get better, then we obviously expect Jackson Jobe at the end of the year, midway through the year, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, that's a pretty dynamic rotation.
They just have a lot of depth, man. They have so much depth. It's incredible. I still think that they need to add a bat at the end of the day. I still worry about the hitting. The differences for me now is going into the season. If they are good towards the deadline and feel like they're still not getting enough for their offense, I have the confidence they're going to go out and make the move that they need to do to make this team better on offense, because they've already done that with their pitching staff. I feel like they thought these were the best players that were worth their money, and that they felt like upgrading their pitching staff was the best use of it. I have no problem with that. If you're going to sign two guys like this, I mean, you can win. You can stop a lot of losing streaks and extend a lot of winning streaks when you have a pitching staff like the Tigers right now, and that's what's important for the regular season. So
maybe Cabrera comes back. Maybe Ordonez is
probably in the best shape of his life.
Maybe they just bring these guys, old schoolers back.
Every spring training for 5 years, Cabrera was in the best shape of his life, so he probably is right now. So you might as well get him back.
Yeah. Well, I guess that kind of begs the question, though. I mean, now that we've seen the Tigers kind of take, I guess, that next step and kind of address some of the things that we've been, especially, and we're not the only people talking about it, obviously, but there's, people have been echoing this same sentiment about spending money. Now that they kind of have, I mean, does this feel like the Tigers are maybe a little bit more all in than we've seen in years past? I mean, we've seen them back-to-back playoff appearances. The team is good, but now we're seeing them really try to go and win a World Series.
They're 100% all in. This is it. This is the push. Like I said, I think we were kind of talking about it before the show started. It's like with Tarek Skubal, like I still think this is it. Like I do think this is gonna. If he has another year like he's had in past years, I mean, maybe he falls off a little bit this year and his ERA is like somehow over 4, and something unexpected happens that we don't think. Maybe they can sign him to a contract that they can pay for and are willing to. Right. But this is it. I mean, they're making the push right now because they didn't trade Skubal. They signed these guys to put around him. That's why I'm saying I think that in the future, this shows me that they actually want to spend money. Now, obviously, we can go back to 2022 when they signed Javi Baez, and that was a high contract. It's not like that wasn't like worth no money, but it felt like the time the Tigers needed a shortstop, and that was the cheapest option. So at the end of the day, with the most opt-outs in the shortest amount of years, and they signed Eduardo Rodriguez, who was never really an ace, and they tried to sell as some ace that they paid way too much money. It feels like this is like the first time that they're actually just getting the green light to go out and get whoever they want. And the whole time people have made jokes about it and everything else about Scott Harris saying that when they have the core in place, we believe that we have the management and the ownership that will help us spend, like going forward. This is proof of it right here. I mean, the Tigers have the core. They made it to the LDS Game 5 2 years in a row. They barely lost last year. The only reason they lost last year is because they didn't have any offense, right? Yep. Which still is a major concern. But it feels like they have time now because they have these pitchers that are going to take you deep into the playoffs and make a huge difference just because of how many innings that they can eat up. It feels like they can figure out their offense, and if they don't like it by the deadline, they can add to it. They're just in a much better position right now to make a run at the World Series. And the AL isn't like... in the AL, I don't know what team I'm picking to beat them in a 7-game series, at least from a pitching standpoint right now. I mean, what happened to the Tigers at the end of last year, I don't think their bats will be that bad again this year towards the end. I feel like this team is going to be all about vibes, and they have a couple of guys like Kevin McGonigal and Max Clark who might break the team out of camp. Matt Vierling's back this year. They just have a lot of things they got to figure out first, but yeah, this is the run at it. Like they're trying to go for the World Series this year, which is extremely exciting to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely agree. And we'll see how the Tigers kind of manage being the favorite, right? Or having high expectations, right? Because we talked about how they kind of overachieved the past couple of years with a very low budget roster. And we'll see if those other guys can improve on what they did, because like you said, Andy, they're not adding any more bats. They're having the same bats they've had the last couple of years. So if your Riley Greens and your Torkelsons and everybody else can improve and up those batting averages and produce more offensively, then Lions, Tigers are going to be in good shape. And if they fall off a little bit, then you're right. At trade deadline comes, you're going to have to add something to help you in the playoffs. But there's certain people I think in the Tigers that need to be everyday players, and you can't platoon them. So it's all going to be kind of like mixing and matching and trying to put those pieces together to create the best lineup every day going forward.
Yeah, less strikeouts too. I think that's the biggest thing with me is they have to strike out less. Like, you can't have Torkelson and Riley Green, especially, who is one of the better younger players in the game, and I do think he's he is ranked one of the best left fielders in the game. You just got to strike out less. You can't have those kind of numbers going in the postseason. That's why they didn't score a lot of runs. That's still my main concern, is they didn't really add like a major contact bat in between those guys to like really free them up and get more pitches in the zone. So we'll see how that plays out. I think that they believe in Kevin McGonigal to maybe be that guy, because he is a pure hitter and he does hit for contact like we saw at the minor league level. So hopefully that ends up being the truth, but if it isn't, I do expect them to make a move at the deadline and add somebody to kind of fix that problem.
Yeah. We're only about a week and a half away from that first spring training game for the Detroit Tigers as they take on the New York Yankees. That's going to be fun to see. Just get back into the baseball season again. I think they have one of these shorter breaks in between seasons, but man, it's going to just feel so great when baseball is back in the mix with everything else. Let's shift over though to the Detroit Pistons and basketball for just a little bit. Obviously the big news as we head into All-Star break is what went down in Charlotte, North Carolina earlier this week as the Detroit Pistons played a visit to the Charlotte Hornets. Again, two teams that have been super hot recently. I mean, obviously the Pistons to a little bit of a greater extent, but before that game, I mean, Charlotte had won 9 games in a row. They were one of the hottest teams. They were kind of shifting and moving turning around their entire season so far. Things kind of came to a head, though, in the third quarter. I mean, there were hard fouls throughout the game. There were chippy moments, but it really came to a head in the third quarter when Moussa Diabate of the Charlotte Hornets fouled Jalen Duren. They kind of came together, had a few words. Jalen Duren stuck his hand in his face, and then the brouhaha really came out. It was pretty crazy to see for a little bit.
Broke loose.
Yeah, I give the coaches a lot of credit for kind of stopping everything from getting way too crazy. I mean, there were a couple of moments that things really got out of hand. Isaiah Stewart coming off the bench to attack Miles Bridges. We do now have the official punishments handed down for 4 guys in particular that were sort of at the center of that: Jalen Duren, Diabate, like I said, Miles Bridges, and Isaiah Stewart. It looks like here we've got Miles Bridges and Moussa Diabate both received 4 games. Jalen Duren, who again was really at the beginning of that, he only got 2 games. Isaiah Stewart, though, suspended for 7 games. I mean, that is a huge suspension for Detroit. I guess, guys, what is sort of kind of the bigger story with these suspensions? Is it that Duren, in a sense, kind of got off scot-free, but also the fact that Isaiah Stewart's going to be out for probably those first 2 weeks after the All-Star break? He's going to obviously miss the game on Wednesday, but then he's going to, after the All-Star break, he's got 6 more games that he's going to have to sit out.
Yeah, I think for Duren, I think it was a case where he put his hand in his face, but then he backed up. You know, he didn't want to kind of get involved in things. So I think maybe that was because it was the lesser. But then obviously Miles Bridges and Isaiah Stewart obviously came to blows and all that, everything like that. But I think the effect is. It's the longest suspension in the Detroit Pistons history, by the way. Ben Wallace had 6 for the Palace at the Malice, or Malice at the Palace. And obviously Isaiah Stewart gets 7. I love beef stew. Talked to people at work today. I love his aggression and his intensity and his defense, but he can't turn into a Draymond Green, okay? And I think he gets 7 games because of his past, right? Yeah. The Lakers melee kind of, I think, 4 years ago, what it was. He's just been involved in lots of different altercations. So I understand he was backing up, his little brother and Jalen Duren, and they're very close. And I think anybody maybe would do that in that respect, but I don't think it's going to hurt the Pistons because of their depth, but it is a big loss, and you don't want to see that come playoff time, right? Like, I think Isaiah Stewart has to understand that he's a very valuable piece to this Pistons, quest for a championship, and come the playoffs, he can't be missing games. He just can't do those sort of things. So hopefully this was a learning lesson for him through all of this, and we can just kind of move forward.
Yeah, you're saying anybody would get in there. I don't think Duncan Robinson would get in there. That's for sure.
Oh my gosh,
he didn't want to get in there. That's for sure.
No, not at all.
The complete opposite. He was
I just think he felt like, oh come on, what are we doing, kind of thing. And he walked away, which didn't look good.
I think his hand was up for the commissioner right there. He was like, I don't want to get fined and I don't want to get suspended. So that's how this is going to go for me. But I think you're exactly right, Dean. That's the one thing that's like since Beef Stew's been here, like I've loved the energy that he brings to the Pistons. Like it's exactly what you want. He's only gotten better as a player on the floor in the past few years, especially with this better team around him that he's playing with. But yeah, you have to worry about it. I mean, if you go into a 7-game series and you're doing this in a 1-1 series in Game 3 because you've got to defend somebody for Jalen Duren, little brother, whatever he is, he's a pretty big little brother. So I think he can handle the issue himself. I don't think you need to run off the bench with things strapped to your knees and look like you're squaring up to box against Miles Bridges. Like that's just it's a terrible look. I mean, like I understand like defending him. I get it. It's like the bad boys thing. I love what he said coming down the tunnel. I can't repeat every word he said of that, but like that's
why I came to Detroit.
Yeah, exactly. That's a nicer way of saying it. It's like you love all that energy, but at the end of the day, man, the NBA is a zero tolerance policy for leaving the bench at any circumstance like that. You're only going to hurt your team by missing more games like this. Like the Pistons have a pretty good lead in the top of the East, but even being a role player kind of that comes off the bench and plays at backup minutes, like he is important because Jalen Duren does still get into foul trouble sometimes, and you got to have him come in the game. And not like they have guys like Paul Reed and stuff who can fill in. I get that, but it's like Isaiah Stewart plays his role and does it well, especially defensively, and that's going to probably hurt them over the next few games. And regular season's one thing, the playoffs are another thing. You have to have that under control, and I like the comparison to Draymond Green as well. Like you can't build that kind of reputation because then they're always going to push it on you again. Like you have everything going against you no matter what, even if one instance was a little bit less than the other or whatever. To me, this warranted everything it was deserved. I think if you're a Pistons fan, you're lucky that it's not 10 games and it's only 7, to be honest with you. Yeah. So like it's just different now. Like back when you mentioned the Ben Wallace thing, that's the 6 games. His was probably worse, to be honest, but back then the NBA was just a different league. It isn't what it is right now. Like you do that kind of stuff. Like the Pistons are obviously kind of trying to change that culture a little bit, and that's cool. Obviously, you don't want to be known as people that make you fight, but like being tougher and more physical and stuff like that. This is just unacceptable. That's just like that's craziness. Like you can't do that to hurt your team in the future. So hopefully that stops happening.
Yeah, no, you hope that they kind of just got it out of their system now because, like, I mean, that's a great point. If this did happen in a playoff scenario or like leading up to the playoffs, that could be detrimental. I mean, you think, especially if Detroit is able to hang on to that 1 seed, you take on the 8 seed, you already have kind of that momentum. If a guy that you kind of rely on, like Isaiah Stewart or like Jalen Duren, is even out for 1 or 2 games, I mean, that could completely flip a series on its head.
Yeah, well, look what happened last year. He had injury last year. He sat out the first series, or the only series against the Knicks. And I think that really hurt them as far as, like you said, Andy, his toughness, his energy, everything that he brings to the Pistons, and they really missed that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And they will if that happens. Like it'll be a huge difference for them going forward. I think even in these 6 games, more than most people are thinking about because he plays such a big role. Like this team has Cade Cunningham, who is a star, but outside of that, it's the depth is they all play well together. But when you take one piece out of it, it might make a big difference. So I think at the end of the day, that's where JB Bickerstaff he's been the best thing to happen to this organization as a head coach. I will critique him a little bit for the way that he came after this, like in the post game. I didn't really like it. I'm like, in my opinion, obviously maybe he hadn't seen all the film yet. I think you got to kind of take that one on the chin a little bit and say that he probably shouldn't be doing that because it is going to hurt our team going forward. I understand.
Yeah, he was defending him.
He was defending him and saying like, I understand why, like, wouldn't you back your brother or whatever? Like, okay. I get that, but we're not talking about like fights in the street or something. Yeah, like this is basketball. You're paid to play the game. If you're suspended and can't play the games, that matters. So at the end of the day, you're not going to make it as far and get towards the goal that all you guys want to get if you're suspended. So hopefully they get that corrected and stop going down that road. But.
All right. Well, awesome stuff, guys. Before we let you go, though, I mean, of course, the Winter Olympics are going on right now. And for everybody watching, hopefully you've been keeping up with all of our coverage. We have Jack Doles down in Milan right now covering all of the games and reporting back every single night. Yep. And it's been great catching up with Jack every day. And, he's gotten to do so many cool things like every Olympic. So, again, I just thought it'd be a good way to end the show today and to talk about some of our favorite Winter Olympic sports. What's sort of the sport that you're always going to turn on? It's, the Winter Olympics, just like the regular Olympics, so many different sports that you don't get to check out every so often. So is there like one sport in particular that you make must-see television?
I used to snowboard, so I do always love watching like the snowboarding and skiing competitions. I think those are great. But the one that I've actually been able to watch like a little bit more that I didn't in the past is curling. Like
really? I think you're going to say that.
Yeah. I've gotten way more into curling. I feel like it's gotten way more intense over the past few years. Like people care about it way more. I think it's insane that you can bet on it right now in the betting apps. That's pretty crazy that you can even make a parlay on that kind of thing. But it's I think it's pretty nuts to see how good people get at that sport. I feel like I just want to know who created it. Right. At the end of the day when I watch it, I'm just like, who thought of this idea of just like pushing these things on the ice?
Right.
It's just like playing shuffleboard on ice, but with a twist. So I don't know. It's just, for me, it's a really cool one to watch, and it's awesome how like into it and passionate people get. But that's what I like about the Olympics in general. Like it could be 1 a.m. You know, I got some late nights at work, and you go home and turn the TV, and there's just some random sport. You know, that's what I like about the Olympics more than anything else, is that you never know what's going to be on, and it's going on all day long. So.
Yeah, we have people who were drawn to their phones watching curling yesterday, and I was just like, "What are you guys watching?" Like, curling. This is to go for the gold medal, and I'm like, "Whoa, okay."
Yeah. It's a medal, man.
Yeah, but I like snowboarding as well. You know, the tricks that they do and the height that they get is just absolutely amazing in those conditions and everything else. So yeah, I really enjoy that. The one thing I saw yesterday, which I was super impressed by, was the guy who was skiing uphill and did like a 6-minute mile.
Oh
on
yeah,
skis.
right.
Like, I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah,
that was amazing. So yeah, lots of cool things to watch with the Olympics, and go USA.
Yeah, no love for the biathlon.
I haven't.
That's
watched
the one where
it
you
yet.
shoot while you're on the skis.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I mean that again. It's just one of those sports. Where did you come up with this?
I heard about that.
Yeah,
and
right.
I did see a clip about it the other day.
I only heard about it because of the guy who admitted something on the post game or the post race interview.
Yeah,
but before, but before we get to the next show, I will make sure to watch it.
Yeah,
I gotta
definitely.
see some of that.
Have to tune in. It's gonna be great. All right, well, awesome stuff, guys. As always, thank you both so much for stopping by, and thank you all so much for tuning in to this latest edition of the Sports Frenzy podcast. We'll be back again next week to break down everything from the Winter Olympics to baseball, basketball, football, everything that's happening all across West Michigan. Curling, especially. We'll be back next week. Thank you all so much for tuning in.